You have been tasked with stealing the spellbook of Hallister, the mad mage who controls Undermountain. In order to wrestle it from where it is hidden inside Dweomercore, the secret academy on level 9, you must navigate your way in by posing as a new student. From there, locate the spellbook, steal it, and get away before the mad mage gets his hands on you. Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play Gamebooks. Today's book, Endless Quest, The Mad Mage's Academy. This is my very first time reading through the book, so let's see if I'm lucky today. You're an idiot. Well, you're a great thief. The kind of swashbuckling rogue bards might someday sing epic ballads about, but recent evidence points to the fact that you may not be as sharp as even the knife in your belt. Fact number 1. You agreed to steal something from the Mad Mage, Hallister, one of the most dangerous wizards ever to darken the Sword Coast. Most thieves would have turned down the gig at the first mention of Hallister's name, but you didn't hesitate to accept your mission for even a second. Fact number 2. The thing you agreed to steal was Hallister's spellbook. As powerful as the Mad Mage is, the theory goes, his spellbook must be crammed to bursting with pages filled with notations and the secrets behind his most amazing spells. Fact number 3. According to the person who hired you to steal that spellbook, it's safely hidden away in Dweomercore, an academy the Mad Mage set up so he could train the next generation of evil wizards to work for him. Fact number 4. The Mad Mage's Academy is located on the 9th level of the massive dungeon known as Undermountain, which ripples through Mount Waterdeep all the way from the magical metropolis of Waterdeep that sits atop it, down to the roots of the mountain itself. And that's enough to convict you of being foolish for sure, if not outright stupid. Still, you took the job, because you think you might be able to pull it off. And if you do, you'll make yourself a legend throughout Waterdeep and beyond. You came up with a plan so crazy it might just work. You decided to sneak your way into Dweomercore by posing as a wizard who's interested in studying at Hallister's Academy. Once you get through the door, you hope to find the spellbook, snatch it, and run off with it before anyone's any the wiser. With luck, you'll be back in Waterdeep, rolling in gold and glory, before the Mad Mage even knows his favorite spellbook has gone missing. So far, so good. You started at a Waterdeep inn called the Yawning Portal for the giant well in its basement that leads straight into Undermountain. From there, you worked your way down to the legendary dungeon's 9th level, doing your best to avoid any other sorts of entanglements, no matter how tempting they might have been. And now you find yourself standing outside the entrance to the Mad Mage's Academy. You walk down the hallway until it opens into a large room with a high arched ceiling covered from one end to the other with bright mosaics. You squint up at images of wand-wielding wizards engaged in stunning magical duels. A withered, disembodied hand, severed long ago from its owner and now floating before you in mid-air, points at you as you enter the room and motions for you to stop. Not wanting to see what the hand might be able to do to you, you comply. A moment later, a man with a long mane of white hair and an even longer and bushier white beard sweeps into the room. "I'm Hallister Blackcloak, Master of Dweomercore," he says. "Welcome to my academy. What business might you have here?" You point up at the hand still floating in the middle of the room. "What's the story behind that?" Hallister chuckles to himself. "That belonged to a wizard named Manshun. He thought he was a much better duelist than it turned out was true. Now answer my question. Why are you here?" "Isn't it obvious?" you say, with as much panache as you can muster. "I'm a young wizard in training, and I'd like to apply to study here at your academy." The mage narrows his eyes at you, madness dancing in his pupils. "You don't look much like a wizard, whatever that means. Are you absolutely sure about that?" Now, do we charge into the school? Turn to page 6. Attack Hallister? Turn to page 9. Or apply to the school? Turn to page 17. Well, my plan was to go in as pretending to be a student, so I'm going to try applying to the school. Of course I'm sure, you say. What young wizard wouldn't want to study under the legendary Hallister Blackcloak? I consider it an honor that you didn't vaporize me the moment I crossed the threshold to your school. Hallister strokes his beard, amused. The day is still young. You laugh off the implied death threat and hope you don't sound as nervous as you are. So, what do I need to do to get started, you ask? Cast a spell? Kill a monster? Go on a quest? We don't bother with such things here, Hallister says. We simply administer a test to see if you are good material for our academy. You nod, hoping that you can somehow skip that part, as you don't know how well you're going to be able to fake being an actual wizard. If you're going to bluff your way through this, though, you can't show an instant's hesitation. When do we get started, you ask? Hallister waves, and the hand floating above him retreats to a distant corner of the room. I'm sure you've had a long journey and would like to freshen up. We want to make sure you're rested and sharp before we administer the exam. You wouldn't believe how many people fail after insisting that they're absolutely fine and ready to start right away. Do yourself a favor and accept our hospitality. It's freely offered and given with no strings attached. The wizard's tone tells you he won't allow you to say no, despite how much you'd rather not get settled in. If you unpack your things, then you'll have to gather them up again before you leave, or just abandon them, which you'd rather not do. Despite that, you give him a grateful nod and gesture for him to lead the way into the school. If you insist, you say. Hallister snorts and then turns to usher you back through the door via which he entered. You emerge into a long hallway that leads straight off to the east. Another hallway spurs off to the south, but he leads you past that to take the next turn to the right into another long hallway. This one is lined with 3 doors on either side and comes to a dead end. Hallister takes you halfway down the hall and opens the door on the right, then motions for you to enter the small room beyond. This hall features one of our 2 student dormitories, he tells you. Conveniently, this room is empty at the moment, so you can rest here. In fact, if you make it into the school, this room will be yours. Feel free to take as long as you like. I'm sure I'll be ready to go soon, you say as you slide past Hallister and into the room. It's a decent size and contains a bed, dresser, and chest, along with a desk and chair. Everything you need for your studies, if you happen to be an actual wizard. An ever-burning torch flickers above the desk, and a row of 5 tubes lines the wall nearest the door. Hallister notices you examining them. Those are part of our pneumatic tube messaging system. You can put notes in the proper tubes, and air elementals carry them where they're needed. The one labeled Headmaster's office goes right to me. When you're ready to get started, just let me know. Thank you for your hospitality, you say, as you stifle a fake yawn. I suppose the trip really has tired me out. Hallister laughs. You're wise to take my advice, he says, before bustling from the room and closing the door behind him. You hustle over to the thick door and put your ear to it so you can listen to him leave. When you're confident that he's gone, you walk over to the bed and sit on it for a moment to contemplate your options. Hallister wasn't wrong. You are tired, but you have a job to do. Question is, how should you do it? Should you take a nap and wait for him to return to ask after you? Or should you take advantage of the fact that Hallister doesn't seem to be watching you right now, so you can wander around the academy without worrying about him looking over your shoulder? You stare at the door for a moment as you make up your mind. Wander around, turn to page 26. Wait, turn to page 28. Neither of them seems like a good option. I have a feeling that there's probably a trap if I wander around, but if I wait, I don't know how I'm going to avoid being found out. Let's wait. You can't just sit around. Oh, whoops, I'm sorry, wrong page. You decide that Hallister was right. You've had a long enough day. Reaching the 9th level of Undermountain was a tremendous task all by itself, and you're beat. On top of that, it's not worth pushing your luck by exploring the academy on your own. Hallister might have a guard posted somewhere outside your room, or maybe even some kind of magical monitor, and you don't need to let him know that you're not who you seem to be. At least, not yet. You'll have other chances to look around, all in good time. You take your boots off and lie down on the bed. It's almost as comfortable as the rocky shelf you had to sleep on last night, but it'll do. After all, you're only going to shut your eyes a few moments, right? It turns out you're more tired than you think. You have no idea how much later it is when you awaken to a gentle knock on the door. Just a moment, you say as you shove your feet back into your boots. Rumbling silently to yourself, you scurry over to the door and throw it open. You fully expect Hallister to be standing there instead, ready to escort you away to take the entrance exam. Instead, you find a shaven-headed man dressed in a long red robe staring at you with dark, sunken eyes. While you've never met one of the Red Wizards before, you've heard all sorts of horrible stories about both them and the dangerous land of Thay from which they hail. The people of Thay live under the rule of a powerful group of wizards, overseen by the evil necromancer Zastan. It only makes sense that one of them might wind up here to study under the Mad Mage. The man regards you with an unforgiving stare, sizing you up as if you were nothing more to him than cattle. Can I help you? You ask. He purses his lips and nods. That really is the question, isn't it? Turn to page 21. My name's Nilas Joud, the Red Wizard says, and I have a proposition for you. You step back and gesture for the man to enter the room so you can speak privately, but he holds up a hand to refuse the kindness. We can surmise that you want to attend the academy. That's a fair assumption, you grant with a nod. Unfortunately, the classes are full at the moment, Nilas says with a scowl. Full of horrible people, people who shouldn't be here at all. What do you mean? Nilas glances around before leaning forward and speaking in a conspiratorial whisper. Most of the students aren't even, well, he looks at you and realizes you might not sympathize with what he's about to say. The point is that the only way for you to gain admittance to the school would be for at least one of them to disappear. I can help you make that happen. You don't want to get involved in such drama, but if it helps you find the spell book you're after, you'll give it a shot. I'm listening, you encourage. There are two girls here, twins, tieflings, half-demonic things. They don't even want to be here. Get rid of them, and a spot should open up for you. You can play along with the plot, for now, and turn to page 31. Refuse to help, turn to page 35, or attack Nilas, turn to page 36. Well, if he's a Red Wizard of Thay, I'm sure he's going to be dangerous if I refuse to help him or if I attack him. So I think I'm going to pretend to go along with the plot for now and hope that there's a way out of it later. That sounds like a fine plan, you say to Nilas. But what's in it for you? Nilas smiles, impressed by your suspicions. Those two tieflings have been a thorn in my side ever since they arrived. If you take them out, you'll be making this a much pleasanter place for me to study. And if I fail? Nilas shrugs. Then I pin your demise on them and try to get them expelled for that. So it works out for you either way, but it might go poorly for me. That's the chance you took when you came down here to apply to the academy. You should be happy that I decided to take you under my wing. The man turns and walks down the hallway, back the way you originally came. Following him, you come to a T-junction at which he leads you to the right and escorts you toward a well-lit room at the end of the hall. As you creep closer, you see a young tiefling, a person of demonic descent, hunched over a desk, copying lines from a book. Turn to page 34. Nilas gives you a wink. I'll leave you to your work, he whispers. Then he walks away. You creep up behind the tiefling, who doesn't appear to notice you at all. All those years working as a thief in Waterdeep serve you well when it comes to padding silently across the floor. It would be simple to just slip the point of your blade between the young wizard's ribs. She'd be dead in an instant. But needless killing's never really been your style, and frankly, you'd rather avoid it if you can. After all, what if Nilas was setting you up to fail? If you kill the tiefling, will Hallister hold that against you? Might he not kick you out of the academy? As you hesitate, the tiefling puts down her writing quill and squirms in her chair, restless. Well, she says aloud, are you going to try to kill me or not? Maybe you're not quite as quiet as you thought. How long have you known I was here? You're actually a pretty good sneak, the tiefling says, but Nilas trumps around here like an elephant. Otherwise, he'd probably have killed you himself, right? The tiefling turns and glares at you with bright red eyes. So, she says, what's it going to be? Get rid of her? Turn to page 38. Talk to her? Turn to page 75. I'm going to talk to her. I may be a thief, but I don't want to have to be a murderer. Your fellow student Neelas brought me here to kill you, you tell the tiefling. He says it's the only way to open a space for me at the school, but I'm willing to entertain the idea that he might have been lying. The tiefling spits on the ground in disgust. And they say that my people are fiends. Neelas has done more harm to people here in the few weeks I've known him than my twin sister and I have done in our entire lives. Is what he said true? She glares at you. And what if it is? Does that mean you're actually going to try to kill me now? Would I really have a chance? Let's not find out. She shakes her head at you. Neelas isn't entirely wrong. He's pulled this stunt before, and it worked out just like he said. Hallister likes to pit the students against one another. You glance around the room. Why? He says he does it to make us tougher, to transform us into the kinds of wizards who have a chance to survive out there in the real world. But you don't believe that, you can tell from her tone. I think Hallister set up this school as a kind of fly trap for wizards. He tells you that he's going to make you into one of the greatest wizards of all time, but instead he uses this place to distract us from real studies, the kinds of things that might make us a challenge to him. You think this is part of a scam? A part of you is impressed that someone as powerful as the Mad Mage would go to such elaborate lengths to sucker people into studying with him. But doesn't that make more sense than the idea that an all-powerful wizard who controls Undermountain would take the time to set up a school of wizardry? Just out of the goodness of his heart? I just want to leave and bring my sister with me. She lets loose a sigh so deep her shoulders slouch from the effort. But Hallister isn't about to let that happen. Not without a fight. And that's a fight we can't win. I don't want to be a student here either, you tell her. Maybe we can help each other out. How do you mean? She asks, both suspicious and hopeful at the same time. You hesitate, weighing what it would mean to bring someone in on the real purpose of your presence here. Maybe she could help, but maybe she'd just stab you in the back and take the book for herself. You decide to risk it. I'm here to steal Hallister's spellbook. You are not a wizard, she asks, surprised. You shake your head. I'm a thief. Someone hired me to steal the book. I just need to find it and get out of here. Would you be willing to take my sister Turbulence and me with you? Your sister's name is Turbulence? You ask. What's yours? Violence, she answers. You're not sure what to make of that. They sound dangerous, but what else can you do? If you can help me, then I don't see why not, though I'm not sure what I can offer that the two of you couldn't do for yourselves. She considers this for a moment before giving you a serious nod. All right, she says, let's do it. We can worry about the logistics of getting out of here later. Okay, you can see. Where to? Violence points at the door in a corner of the room. That's Hallister's quarters. His spellbook has to be hidden in there. If you say so. It seems a little too easy to you. Violence senses your hesitation and frowns at you. You swear to me that you'll help us get out of here. You have to give me your word. You take the word of a thief you just met? At this point, I don't see how we have much choice. If the spellbook's right here, you're not sure you need Violence's help. On top of that, there's always the chance she might be lying to you. Maybe the spellbook's not there at all, or maybe she'll just try and take it for herself. Push past Violence into Hallister's quarters and turn to page 56, or ignore Violence and move on, turn to page 62, or accept Violence's deal, turn to page 65. I think I will take her deal. Though they do say that magic always comes with a price. All right, you tell Violence, you have a deal. Help me get the spellbook, and I'll help you and your sister get out of here in whatever way I can. You're smarter than you look, the tiefling says with a smile. Before you can figure out just how insulted you should be, she turns toward the door marked, Headmaster's office. Knock, please. Follow me, she says. You don't want to start a fight with your new partner in crime, so you do as she orders. She steps up to the door while you check the corridor to make sure no one's watching. Apparently satisfied that the way is clear, she opens the door and pulls you inside after her. You find yourself in a round room with a tall vaulted ceiling. A set of 15 pneumatic tubes lines the left-hand wall. Across from you sits a wide desk with a tall chair behind it. A statue of Hallister looms behind that, looking down at you with a stern glare. As you move into the room, you see that the chair is covered with carvings of mouths flung open and screaming. You start to hear them screeching in your ears, but Violence silences them with a sharp word and a flick of her wand. There, she says. That'll keep that nasty thing quiet. But we'll have to move fast. My spell will only last for a minute. I've robbed a noble's villa in less time than that, you say as you start searching the room. As is your way, you carefully rifle through the desk, but there's nothing like a spellbook there. However, the wall opposite the pneumatic tubes is suspiciously bare. You move over to inspect it and find a hidden catch. As you pull on it, a section of the wall swivels away, revealing a smaller round room. Overstuffed bookshelves line its walls all the way to the ceiling. Violence gasps in surprise and delight. When she tries to rush into the room, you block her way with your arm. We're in a hurry, she says. We need to be careful, you point out. You really think that chair out there is Hallister's only protection for something as valuable as his spellbook? Good point. Violence waves her wand and the floor of the room in front of you, which is mostly covered with a rug, begins to glow. That looks bad, you say, but we can work our way around it. You reach out and grab the edge of a bookshelf. From there, you swing yourself into the room and place your feet on a lower shelf, keeping yourself off the floor as if it were made of lava. Guess the floor is lava. Oh! Violence says. She waves her wand over the bookshelves, and one particular volume on the other side of the room begins to glow. That must be it! With your goal in sight, you move faster, crawling across the bookshelves like a gigantic spider. When you reach the book, you snatch it up, then rush back toward the door. As you near it, you can hear the chair begin to screech again. Quickly, Violence says as she ushers you toward the door. You don't need her to rush you away. The screeching chair is doing a fine job of that. Once you're outside, Violence slams the door behind the two of you, and the chair, having accomplished its mission, shuts up. You lean against a wall so that you don't collapse in relief, and then open the book to see what you found. The pages are blank. Is this a trick? You ask Violence, wondering if she's betrayed you. Yes, she says with a chuckle, but it's one Hallister likes to play. He writes in invisible ink. Your client will have to reveal it with magic. You shoot her a dubious look, still unsure if you can trust her. If you bring this book to your client and it's useless, you'll be lucky if you're only laughed out of Waterdeep. So, do we leave without helping Violence, or do we try to keep our end of the bargain? Well, if I try and leave without her, she might try to kill me, so I think I'll live up to my end of the bargain and just hope that this is the right book. All right, you tell Violence as you stuff the spellbook into a large pocket in your coat. I need a spell or something to distract Hallister while you go and get your sister. Take this. She pushes a crystal into your hands. Then she leans in and whispers a short incantation in your ear. You quickly commit it to memory. What'll it do? You ask. She simply smiles knowingly at you, then slips off down the hall. Realizing that there's little else for you to do at this point, you head toward the school's entrance, hoping that your presumed attempt at leaving will draw Hallister to you. Your instincts couldn't be more right. My apologies, he says as he rushes to meet you at the door. I didn't realize you'd be so impatient. Not at all, you assure him. I was just coming to find you. I wanted to show you what I can do. So eager, the Mad Mage responds with an amused smile. Please, go ahead. With that, you hold the crystal out in front of you and chant the magic words. This crystal starts to thrum in your hand and lets out a musical note that you think sounds quite pretty. Ah. But as you finish, Hallister's face drops and he moves to take the crystal from you. Too late. The quite beautiful musical note has turned to a piercing, high-pitched cacophony that makes you cover your ears. In doing so, you drop the crystal and the noise stops. Turn to page 81. You look up sheepishly at Hallister. For you to fumble on such a simple spell, I think it's quite clear that there's no place for you here, he scowls. My academy is for the best of the best, and this only goes to show that you don't fit that caliber. Well, you never wanted to join school, and yet his scolding strangely hurts you. Slumping your shoulders, you leave without a word, bolstered only by the fact that you do so with the book in your pocket. You're already halfway back to Waterdeep when Violence and her sister Turbulence catch up to you. You got away that easily? You ask. Violence nods. That spell broke every piece of glass in the entire academy. It's a lot easier to slip out when everyone is busy worrying about what might explode next. Turbulence smiles. Perhaps we'll see you around. Perhaps. You manage to get back to the surface and head to the yawning portal. Your client arrives soon after, finding you already finishing up the best meal you've had in weeks. She inspects the book carefully. After a nervous moment, she nods. I'd be surprised if this was Hallister's primary spellbook, but it's certainly one of his. She throws a large purse full of coins on the table. All right, you say to the rest of the adventurers in the yawning portal. The fun tonight is on me! Woohoo! The end. All right, looks like I'm lucky today. That was a pretty good ending. But should I push my luck and go see what else there is? Nah, let's move on to another book.